Mind games or misconduct? No one thought that the most controversial story of the 2025 China Open would stem from a mere clap. When Belinda Bencic walked onto the court that day, everything seemed to be in her control. A set win secured, stable form, superior experience, and most inspiringly, her comeback after giving birth. A feat that led the entire tennis community to call her a new symbol of resilience. But then, after just one small sound, a round of applause from the stands, the momentum shifted. Just before serving, Belinda abruptly turned towards Coco Gauff's box, pointed her finger directly, and yelled, "I'm too old for these mind games." In an instant, the tennis world exploded. The 14-second clip went viral across X, Instagram, and TikTok. Not for an ace or a stunning passing shot, but for an unspoken accusation. Mind games, in the covert language of tennis, is akin to calling someone a cheater. She didn't use the word cheating, but everyone understood her implication. Coco's reaction? Not a single word of reply. No eye roll. No raised voice. She simply took a deep breath, adjusted her shoelaces, and stepped into the psychological battle. And that very moment drew a strange line between the person who let emotions lead the way and the person who transformed emotions into motivation. Why would a top athlete like Belinda lose control over a simple clap? Was she reacting to an injustice or simply self-sabotaging her own opportunity? And more deeply, is modern tennis becoming a psychological arena where those who aren't cool-headed enough are swallowed whole? In today's video, we will delve into every second of the season's most controversial incident, from never-before-seen camera angles to the backstage reaction from the WTA. But most importantly, you'll see why that moment didn't just affect one match. It could change Belinda Bencic's career forever. Don't look away, because the truth at the 14-minute mark will be unbelievable. And if you love tennis in a way no one else tells it, hit subscribe to the Pro Tennis 360 channel to not miss stories like this. Coco Gauff and the lesson of silence amidst the storm. Throughout that match, Coco did not retaliate. She didn't mention the word cheating. She didn't respond despite being publicly criticized. She said only one thing to the umpire: "No one here is trying to be disrespectful." And that was the key point. When everything around her became noisy, the crowd, social media, commentators, Coco chose silence. She didn't justify herself, didn't complain. She let her racket speak. And that voice echoed louder than any hashtag or argument. What Coco showed that day was not just tennis skill. It was life skill. It was the ability to self-regulate emotions amidst global pressure. It was the resilience of someone who understands that, at this level, you don't just compete for yourself. You compete for the image of an entire generation. And the irony? She is only 21 years old. Therefore, the 2025 China Open match will not be remembered just for the drama. It will be remembered as a moment of transition, where a young player not only won by score, but won by maturity beyond her years. Tennis doesn't have VAR, but the audience has a memory. And in that memory, Coco is now not just a Grand Slam champion. She is a role model for the generation that wins through silence. One word, a lifetime of ripples. If you ask a tennis fan what they remember most from the Belinda Coco match, they might not mention the ace, the passing shot, or the double fault. They will talk about the moment Belinda pointed, said, "I'm too old for this," and the world held its breath. Not because it was a terrifying phrase, but because it opened up a story about pressure, expectations, prejudice, and how people react when cornered. For Belinda, this isn't the end, but it is definitely a turning point. She will have to rewrite her own story from here, with more introspection, more control, and perhaps more silence. And Coco? She didn't need to say anything at all. The media spoke for her. An athlete's career is determined not only by titles, but by how they face moments of shock, both on and off the court. And in that battle, the person who maintains composure is always the ultimate winner. What are your thoughts on this moment? Was Belinda truly wrong, or was she just a victim of oversensitivity? Leave your opinions in the comments section below. And if you want to discover more of the dark and bright sides of the tennis world, subscribe to Pro Tennis 360 so you don't miss the next video. A set win, a clap, and a look that broke everything. Belinda Bencic is no novice player. She was once a world top 5, an Olympic gold medalist, and considered one of the most mature talents in the 1997 cohort, the generation dubbed the next golden generation of women's tennis. But stepping into the China Open 2025, what captured the audience's attention wasn't her ranking, but her comeback story after giving birth to her first child. The media described Belinda's return as elegant, steady, and featuring a maturity never seen before. And the match against Coco Gauff was viewed as her chance to assert, age and motherhood have not slowed down the class of a champion. Set 1 unfolded almost perfectly. Belinda played as if she was turning back time. Solid serves, timely net approaches, suffocating her younger opponent. While Coco was struggling to find her rhythm, Belinda took a commanding 6-3 lead, leaving the stands in silent surprise. But then, just minutes into set 2, the atmosphere changed. After an intense rally that Coco managed to turn around, applause erupted from her box, where her support team and coach were seated. In a relatively sparse stadium, with sound echoing from every corner, that clapping sounded like thunder in a psychological battle. Belinda, ready to serve, froze. She turned her head. Her expression made her annoyance clear. And instead of continuing play, she walked straight to the umpire, beginning to complain. The notable thing? This wasn't the first time. In the first 3 games of set 2 alone, Belinda had complained 3 times about noise from Coco's team. From a technical standpoint, the rules don't strictly forbid cheering after a point. But in a sport that values silence like tennis, the action is easily perceived as provocation, especially when it disrupts an opponent's serving rhythm. And it was at that moment, as Belinda turned back towards Coco and yelled, "Tell them to shut up. I'm too old for these mind games," that the thin line between a serve and a media crisis began to blur. From mind games to cheating, the blurred line everyone understands. In the tennis world, mind games isn't just a trivial complaint. It's a loaded phrase. When a player uses it to describe an opponent's conduct, even without directly saying cheating, it immediately drags the discussion into a dangerous gray area. You are accusing someone of intentionally disrupting the fairness of the match. And that is precisely what made Belinda's reaction more than a mere emotional outburst. She didn't just ask Coco's team to stop clapping. She used the term mind games with clear sarcasm, implying that Coco's side was using underhanded tactics to destabilize her mentally, something extremely sensitive in a professional environment. Social media immediately erupted. Tweets like, "Is she calling Coco a cheater without saying the word?" And this isn't just frustration, its deflection spread like wildfire. And, as predicted, the story shifted. From a clap to an accusation. Tennis, a sport of silence and self-control, sharpens the words even further. Every statement is not just a personal emotion, it's a public message that can be fined, criticized, and even ruin a reputation. When Belinda repeated the phrase "mind games" for the 3rd time in under 10 minutes, the audience began to understand that this was no longer a misunderstanding. And what made things worse? Coco did not retaliate. No aggressive reaction. She continued to play. She let Belinda talk. And that silence, ironically, made Belinda appear excessive. In sports, especially elite women's tennis, when one side maintains composure and the other loses control, the public tacitly chooses sides. And, unfortunately for Belinda, the audience was gradually leaning towards Coco, not because of skill, but because of emotion. Social media doesn't just choose sides. IT issues a verdict. When the video clip of Belinda pointing and shouting, "I'm too old for these mind games," was uploaded to X and TikTok, it didn't just go viral. It became a meme. A moment that exploded like lightning, then spread like fire, carrying consequences that even seasoned media handlers would struggle to manage. Tennis fans clearly split into factions. One side said, "Belinda is just defending herself. She has the right to demand respect when preparing to serve." The other side, larger and more vocal, argued, "She ruined the match. If she had stayed silent and kept playing, she probably would have won." The complexity here doesn't lie in the tennis rules. but in the optics. In the eyes of the majority, a 28-year-old Olympic gold medalist, 7 years older than her opponent, was losing control in front of a young, composed player who refused to fire back. In a psychological battle, the person who shouts the loudest is often the loser. It didn't take long for commentators to join the fray. One famous sports channel commented, "Belinda had the game in her hands, but she dropped the racket for a microphone," meaning she had the victory within reach, but chose to talk instead of play. And the cruelty of the internet is that it doesn't need the complete truth to reach a conclusion. It only needs a moment of lost control. The term mind games was immediately translated into accusing of cheating in countless captions. Major tennis fan pages even juxtaposed the image of an angry Belinda with a serene Coco to create a perfect narrative of contrast. Worse still, sources began leaking that the WTA was considering disciplinary action. A fine? A warning? A match suspension? Although there was no official confirmation, the mere phrase "under investigation" was enough to tarnish Belinda's image. From a tennis match, the story had now become a court of public opinion. And Belinda, instead of being remembered for her post-maternity comeback, was now associated with a cold phrase, the mind games meltdown. Coco Gauff, when calm becomes the most ruthless weapon. While Belinda was embroiled in controversy, something silent yet dangerous was happening. Coco Gauff was regaining her rhythm. Immediately after the argument, keen observers could spot a slight sign of wavering from Coco. A double fault, an unusual delay in her serving preparation. But the astonishing thing was how Coco handled it. She didn't argue, didn't look towards the box, didn't speak to the umpire. She simply stopped, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. And then everything changed. Every subsequent shot from Coco seemed to carry extra weight. She began attacking Belinda's weakness, the inconsistent returns on the backhand side. She dictated play. Her serves became sharper. And in every movement, one thing was visible. Coco had completely detached herself from the drama. It is here that the mindset difference truly became apparent. Belinda was still stuck in the argument in her head. Every time she faced a break point, she glanced at Coco's box. Every double fault, she muttered about the noise. Meanwhile, Coco focused only on the ball, on the score, on the single goal to turn the match around. When Coco earned the first break point of set 2, she didn't celebrate. She just clenched her fist, lowered her head, and returned to the baseline. This was no longer a tennis match between two players. It was a psychological test. And as an inevitable consequence, Coco won. She didn't just win set 2, but also set 3. From being down 0-1, she secured a 2-1 overall victory. But the greater victory wasn't on the scoreboard. It was in how she defeated the drama while maintaining her class, reputation, and composure. While Belinda walked off the court with a look of exhaustion, Coco stepped away as an icon, not just of talent, but of maturity beyond her years. When a single statement can cost more than a match loss. When the match ended, one might have thought everything was over. But in reality, it was just the starting point for a media tsunami that Belinda couldn't suppress. The clips of the controversial moment were looped across platforms, not just with sensational captions, but accompanied by comments from experts, fans, and even people who don't follow tennis at all. Several major newspapers ran headlines. From champion to chaos, Belinda's meltdown at China Open. Many questioned, does she deserve a fine? Did she violate the code of conduct for sportsmanship? Did she damage the WTA's reputation? The truth is, in professional tennis, an action can be deemed unsportsmanlike conduct if it negatively affects the opponent, even without vulgar language or violent action. And in this case, Belinda interrupted the match 3 times to complain, used accusatory language, and affected her opponent's rhythm. Although there was no immediate official statement, the WTA began asking questions. An anonymous representative told the press, "We're reviewing the footage and all match reports. Player conduct matters." And when an organization has to review footage, it means the situation has moved beyond a personal issue. It became a matter of public image. For Belinda, The consequence is not just a fine, if any. It's the association with the image of a hot-headed mother and someone who can't handle pressure. Ironically, what the media once celebrated, her comeback after childbirth, is now being twisted into a prejudice. And this is the darkest side of modern sports. You don't just compete on the court, you also compete against the storm of prejudice outside. Tennis is changing, but some rules are unbreakable. Many believe this incident is a symptom, not of Belinda, but of the entire modern tennis system that is shifting. In recent years, the rules have opened up. On-court coaching is allowed. Support teams are allowed to cheer during sets. Television cameras are placed right next to the coaching boxes. All of this creates a new kind of energy, more intimate, more dynamic, but also more easily distracting than ever. In such an environment, where is the line between encouragement and disruption? Between instinctive reaction and unsportsmanlike conduct? The issue is, tennis remains a sport of silence. The silence is not just an auditory backdrop. It's a tactical component. Players need it to maintain their heart rate, calculate strategy, and reset their mindset. And anyone who breaks that, whether accidentally or intentionally, is viewed with suspicion. Belinda, with all her experience and mental toughness, should know this better than anyone. But precisely because she understood it, her behavior became more difficult to accept. She is no longer the vulnerable 20-year-old player. She is a mother, a champion, an icon of return. All eyes were on her, and every word, every reaction was magnified twofold. When she called them mind games, she may have just meant, leave me alone. But to the world, it was an accusation. And tennis, no matter how many new rules it adopts, has no place for such implied accusations, especially between two of the most popular female players. What about Coco? She didn't need to say anything. Her silence diverted all attention back to Belinda, and this time not for a win. From an inspirational comeback to an indelible stain. If you followed Belinda's journey throughout 2025, you'd understand why so many people feel sorry for her. Returning to the court just months after giving birth, she was greeted as a hero. Photos of her pushing a stroller outside the practice court, sharing stories of balancing breastfeeding with physical training. That story once brought tears to fans' eyes because it spoke of the extraordinary resilience of a modern female athlete. And precisely because of that, the misstep at the China Open was not just a defeat. It was an act of self-sabotage of her image. In a few minutes of lost control, she traded all the empathy, all the achievements she had built. The media began calling her unfiltered Belinda, not in an endearing way, but in a she could snap at any moment way. And Coco? This victory didn't just take her to the WTA finals. It transformed her into the new representative of the mental steel generation. Not just fast, not just strong, but also motionless amidst the drama. The press called it a silent victory. And that silence was louder than any statement. Tennis always loves comeback stories, but it is also harsh on those who lose control. In the public eye, you are not just an athlete. You are a role model. And every moment, even just a glance, a phrase, can be recorded forever. For Belinda, that match might have just been a bad day. But for the internet, it is her identity. Tennis isn't just the ball. It's how you react when you lose. Not everyone can compete at the top level after becoming a mother. Not everyone can maintain a position in the WTA top rankings while splitting time between family and training. Belinda achieved that, and that's why millions adore her. But at this level, a match is not only measured by the score. It is also measured by mental fortitude. And when cameras are placed too close and microphones are too sensitive, every oversight, no matter how small, is magnified into a definition. In theory, Belinda never said, "Coco is cheating." But she implied it in front of millions of live viewers. In sports, especially tennis, implication is sometimes more dangerous than a direct accusation, because it leaves the target unable to fully refute it, and the public free to speculate. The most regrettable part is, Belinda didn't need to do that. She was winning. She was the favorite. She was controlling the match. But precisely because she lost emotional control, the balance tipped the other way, not through skill, but through a sense of ethical high ground. Tennis always values fair play, not because the rules mandate it, but because the audience loves that silence, focus, and decorum. A perfect serve is always more cherished than a shouting fit. Belinda was once seen as the embodiment of a Swiss composure, the Federer style, polite and reserved. But with just one moment of indiscretion, she was pulled out of that image and framed by a nickname she likely never wanted: the one who snapped.